go live now? Here we go. Hi, everybody. So nice to see you all here. Welcome to the FourthBrain MLOps virtual info session. We are here to tell you more about our MLOps program. We're so excited to have you all here. We are excited to have our brand new director of product, our former lead instructor for our program, who's joined us full time, here to talk to you. We have our career services director, James Van, to talk with you, and we have a couple of our recent graduates here to talk to you. So today, what we are going to cover, I'll introduce myself. I'll let each individual presenter introduce themselves when they come online. We're going to talk to you a little bit about FourthBrain, really dive into the curriculum and the program. We'll talk about our career services. You'll get a chance to meet our graduates, and then we'll wrap up at the end with telling you how to apply and answering your questions. At any time during this session, please put your questions in the chat. We will be answering some of the questions on chat, and we'll also be answering some of them live. So just keep on putting your questions in there, and we will get to them. So a little bit about me. I am the director of operations. My name is Molly Larkin. I've been with FourthBrain since the beginning, almost 2 years now. And I'm very glad to be here. I have been part of sort of non-traditional adult career education for almost 8 years. And I'm really so excited to be part of FourthBrain, which I think really brings together a lot of the best in the industry into one type of program. Greg, why don't you introduce yourself real quick before I jump in?
Thanks, Molly. I'm Greg Loughnane, and I'm really excited to be joining FourthBrain full time. I'm also going to be teaching the upcoming cohort that you're here to learn about today, the MLOps cohort. I've got about 10 plus years of experience teaching. I got really into online teaching and learning starting when the pandemic hit, and I've really taken that all the way here to FourthBrain. We got a lot into AI and machine learning starting in 2015, 2016. And it's really been a learning journey for me that I'm really excited to be able to share with all of you through not just this course, but as we continue to refine and improve the suite of products and courses that we're building here at FourthBrain. So I'm really excited to talk to you about what you're going to learn in MLOps today, and really looking forward to seeing some of you in class.
Great. Thanks so much, Greg. We're so glad to have you. Great. So before we jump into the MLOps program, I want to tell you just a little bit about FourthBrain. So FourthBrain is a program we're about 1.5 years old. Our very first cohort was in October of 2020. And what we are really trying to do is launch people into AI and ML careers. So that means that our programs are part-time, flexible, remote, really enabling people who already have a career started or are already working full-time. They really want to move their career forward. So it is our goal to provide the most accessible and relevant programs to your career growth in the AI and ML space. MLOps is our second program. We've had 2 cohorts so far, and so we are approaching our third one starting in March. So that little bit of background, I'm going to hand it off to Greg to tell you more about this program.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Molly. As Molly said, this is the 3rd iteration of the program. So we continue to refine and progress with the state of the art in the industry. And we're really excited to tell you about how, we've taken this idea of how to deploy, test, and monitor ML models and pipelines. And, we're actually trying to take it even a step further in this upcoming 3rd cohort. So I think we can go ahead and go to the next slide here. And this is going to be a sort of a 10 plus 1 week setup where we've got some initial stuff in the front end. We've noticed that a lot of folks out there, they didn't necessarily, work as a software engineer, get a computer science degree. And so there are some kind of basic software engineering practices and things that we need to make sure kind of get ironed out so we can really hit the ground running with live instruction week 1. And the thing that I also want to highlight is with the $6,000 tuition, we actually provide you with much more than you're going to be able to use access to cloud platform providers like AWS and like Google Cloud Platform. And as of this week, we're actually also potentially going to loop in Azure as well. So there's a lot of opportunity to be able to leverage paid services within that tuition. And we just really want to make sure that we point that out as well. So the structure is that we're going to basically meet on Saturdays. And this is kind of an async structure outside of the live sessions, where we really want to make sure we're setting ourselves up for success with videos and with assignments, with pre-work heading into the live sessions, so that we can really spend our time together in the most valuable way that allows you to build relationships, that allows you to really make the most out of your time that you get to spend with the cohort, actively learning. And so I'm going to be much more of a facilitator than I am a sage on the stage instructor. And I'm really, this has been something that we worked on. We've got a couple of the members from the last cohort in the Zoom room here today. And they're going to tell you a little bit about their experience, but this is continuing to be something that we iterate on, that we continue to improve all the time. And I'm really excited to tell you a little bit about exactly what those videos and assignments are going to look like. But first, the really, really biggest thing that we want you to focus on heading into this is the capstone project. And so that is the project-based learning component of the course. We can go to the next slide on this, I believe. And this part of the course is something that I'm really, really excited to be able to help you through if you have individual projects that you're thinking of creating. We've had a number of successful previous students create some really amazing projects, and even starting to create some really amazing products out there in the startup industry. And so in addition to the ability to sort of create your own, and we'll work with you, and I will work with you specifically to figure out something that's going to be a really awesome project, one of my main focuses is also to try to help figure out how to get more industry partners in, sponsoring more interesting projects for all of you to be able to look at and potentially pick your very favorite from and focus on that. And it'll be more of a scripted approach, but also one that is incredibly industry relevant. So we've got kind of the more startup-y vibe, and then we're really, really working over the next few weeks, months, this next calendar year to really grow. And that's really what my focus is as well, is to just really, really grow those industry sponsored opportunities. So this is kind of the thing we have in mind, okay, is like, what does this capstone look like? What is it actually going to consist of? And yeah, we can go to the next slide here, where it's pretty simple when you get right down to it, what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to have you walk away with. The artifact is going to be that capstone demo presentation and GitHub setup. And you're going to demonstrate how you've conceptualized a problem, how you've built a model, a data model piece of code that was trained and deployed locally first and then to the cloud, where you're actually able to monitor the web app and the container or containers that are being orchestrated to run it. And then we want to take it even a step further, because after a couple different cohorts, we realized this step of retraining and improving the model, this is where the MLOps fun really begins. And that this is where you really start to feel like you're becoming an MLOps practitioner. And beyond that, we're actually going to teach you some of the aspects of scaling vertically and horizontally, meaning to more users or to up the power that your virtual machines can deliver. But that is going to be for the most tenacious students and the least faint of heart to actually build that into their product. And let's say demo it in real time to all 20, 30 people that are in the room on presentation day. So we can go to the next slide here to talk a little bit about kind of the tools that we're going to learn. There are some sort of best practice tools in the industries, the ML industry, that are really important for you to know today. And those are the ones that we're really going to focus on. If you talk about MLOps basics, there's lots of concepts, lots of potential tools that are kind of software engineering tools, Python tools, TensorFlow, PyTorch, lots of different libraries that we're going to assume you have a handle on before you head into this. So it's really important that you are making sure that you've got that sort of background before you just dive right in, because it will be painful to try to put that together later. But assuming you've got all that, and you've got sort of the basic data science, you got some of the basic software engineering, then we're going to just be off to the races starting week 2 to 3, where we focus on exactly, the web application frameworks that you're going to hear in the industry, that people are going to say, hey, you know how to use Flask, you know how to use Fast API, you will know how to use these. We talk about containers. I mean, Docker is best practices. You've got to learn Docker. And when we talk about container orchestration, Kubernetes is something that you've got to be able to at least talk your way through, if not completely set up on your own, because a lot of these cloud engines kind of set that up for you. But to understand what's going on under the hood, that's a really, really important part for MLOps practitioners. When we actually move a layer up in abstraction from containers, we start to put the ML and the container orchestration technology together. And cloud platform providers do this very, very well, but you can also do it in more of an open source way. And we will look at that space with Kubeflow pipelines. But each full stack ML tool actually has their own pipeline tool as well. And atop everything, we're sort of monitoring. So that means looking inside of each container, looking inside of each model, looking inside of how things are operating when they're in production, and making sure that we're extracting the most useful metrics. And at the very top of the pyramid here is full stack ML. So the tools that are going to be out in the industry that will just make you dangerous, that we're going to give you some hands-on practice with, again, with those cloud credits. SageMaker is number 1, and Vertex AI, the new Google AI cloud platform, rebranded, is the Google version of SageMaker. And we may also play with the latest in Azure as well, if there is interest in time for the cohort. So these are the tools that you'll walk away with. These are the tools that you'll be able to talk your way through. These are the tools that will make it on your resume, will make it into your project, and you'll be able to start leveraging to create real value for businesses all over the industry as soon as you get done with the program. And then, so, finally, I just want to kind of show you a little bit more in depth, last slide here, of the sort of 10 weeks. So I just kind of want to walk through. Looks like we've got a little screen. Can we go back one slide?
Yep. There we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Little slowness here. Sorry.
Little technical difficulties here, but our curriculum. I kind of wanted to outline it like this as well. Is like where we're going to start is we're going to say, okay, what are we actually aiming at here? Well, we're aiming at building AI products, and we're aiming at using MLOps to do that. And what does that mean? What does an AI product look like over its life cycle? How does that correspond to what we build today in the industry without AI and just digital product life cycles in general? And the other piece that's so important today is the data-centric AI piece. The more and more data every day is just going to continue. So it becomes less about volume of data and more about quality of data. That's only going to continue over time. That's going to be the true data science. So the data is where you're going to be able to create the gains. If you use AutoML or something like that, you're going to be able to create the gains with data. And so let's keep that focus in mind from day one as we start building our project. And then we get into web apps and container technology, container orchestration, pipelines monitoring, and full stack ML before it's go time and we have final demo day. So we've got another deeper dive on this curriculum that we will make available as well. If you have more interest in checking out more about this, but this is kind of the 10 weeks in a nutshell. And in a super nutshell, we'll kind of conclude the curriculum discussion with kind of the top line. What are you gonna walk away from this with? You're gonna be able to train, you're gonna be able to deploy, you're gonna be able to monitor, and you're gonna be able to retrain and improve the utility, the accuracy, the business value that you can create with those models. So for the most intrepid travelers, we will also teach you how to scale. So not just go from 0 to 1, but go from 1 to N. And the goal is that by the end of this thing, you will be demoing your full stack ML capabilities with your capstone. So that's the curriculum, and that's not all we've got for you. I think we've got, next up, you're going to hear from some of the students that have taken the course just before.
Sorry, everyone. My slides are a little slow today, but I want to hand it off to James, who's going to tell you a little bit about career services, and hopefully the slides will catch up with you, James. But why don't you start by introducing yourselves?
Thanks, Molly. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And let me just sort of introduce myself a little bit. My name is James Van. I'm the Director of Career Services here at FourthBrain. I love working with students. I'm excited to be here. I have over 20 years of helping people get their next job or their next career. My own personal journey started out as a technical recruiter here in Silicon Valley and in San Francisco. I did that for a number of years. And then at some point, I realized that I kind of wanted to get back into education. So I transitioned into higher ed, and then I soon transitioned back into higher ed and technology. And that's sort of where FourthBrain, that nice convergence of technology and continuing adult education has really hit the sweet spot for me. So hopefully, if we see you here in the class, you will leverage my experience and sort of pulling back, the drapes that sort of can sometimes obscure what the hiring process looks like. I've got a lot of experience in that process and in that experience. So hopefully that I can share my experience with you, so that you and I can work together to a meaningful outcome, whatever that might be. Next slide. Okay, so career services curriculum. What does that look like? So I've also developed kind of a hybrid approach to the learning when it comes to career services here at FourthBrain, right? So there's a bunch of curriculum that I've created that is available that you can learn asynchronously. And much like what Greg has done with the Anchor curriculum, it's a lot of reading, and then the workshops are sort of like then, rolling up our sleeves and literally like doing. So the assumption is that you've done some of the reading ahead of the workshop so that we can sort of maximize our time and get stuff done and then move on to the next thing. So these are sort of the 4 basic tenets, which all of the curriculum is based. So I don't make any assumptions about where each individual is. And so part of that is either reaffirming or exploring what the actual target is after graduation, right? So what is it that you want to do after graduation? What is a good outcome for you? Some people take these skills and go back to their current job, and it's really a matter of like continuing to sort of set forth a career path, for the next couple of years. Awesome, great, and we can have conversations about things that you can do to sort of expedite that process and set yourself up for success. Other students, they're here because they want to switch jobs, they want to switch employers or switch careers. Outstanding. And I will work with you on sort of identifying a little bit a focal point for whatever that target is, and then it's a matter of then developing a plan. So identifying what is for you as an individual, what are your goals for after graduation. From there, there's a lot of making sure that we can create and update your marketing materials. So what do I mean by that? All the standard resume, cover letters, LinkedIn, GitHub, your portfolio page, all the stuff that brands you as an ML professional, right? Updating that and making sure that you are off on the best foot possible. Number 3 is there are often many ways that you can get to your goal. We just sort of want to come together, find a plan that works for you. Most of the people that I work with are still employed or got multiple things going on. So part of it is setting you up for success, but also part of that is making sure that you are efficient and working in the focused manner possible, right? So that's sort of finding what that job search strategy and plan is, and then last but not least, executing on plan. And my role is to sort of coach you through that and continue to optimize and tweak as we go along so that you can reach your goal as quickly as possible. So in a nutshell, that is what I do here at FourthBrain. Next slide. So I've discussed this a little bit, but these are really the touch points that I have with all of the students, right? So in other words, how will I work with you? So as discussed already, there is a self-paced learning component. So there's a lot of stuff that you can read on the side, a lot of very small chunk down, learning where it's like each reading takes a little bit of time, read, do, right? That's the idea. Then I hold weekly live workshops where we put into action what you've read during the previous week. Outside of that, I'm available for one-on-one meetings. So I don't necessarily mandate that everyone meet with me, but I certainly open myself up, and I love meeting with people as individuals. So I open up my schedule. You have access to me however many times you would want. Towards the end of the program, and especially once you graduate, I will organize students into sort of job search study groups. I've found that having sort of an accountability and sort of groups where we work together in teams has been particularly effective. And so at the end of the program, I'll organize you into groups and we'll work together in those small groups. So that sort of sums up how I will work with you all.
Great. Thanks so much, James. I see lots of questions coming in. Please continue to put them in there. We want to make sure you get introduced to our graduates, and then we will circle back and answer all of your questions. So please continue putting questions in there. So at this point, I would like you all to meet our graduates. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They're going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about, their background, where they were coming from before the program, and sort of what their intentions were after the program. So let's start with Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Perkins, and I'm a recent graduate of the MLOps course. Currently, I work full-time as on the product management team for NTT Application Security, which was formerly known as White Hat Security. And so I'm a hacker by profession, but I'm also very passionate and have been very passionate about learning about ML and trying to leverage ML AI within my career. And so I chose FourthBrain for several reasons. The curriculum, the access to the ML tools and platforms was just incredible. Greg, the class instructor, is amazing. Resources like James Van for career services, and just, in general, meeting all of the different classmates from different places around the world, and collaborating on group projects, that was just an incredible journey to take together. So I really loved the format, the hybrid format. It was a great fit for me because I have a full-time job, but also that I was able to kind of quasi make my own schedule and study sessions, that sort of thing. I work around my existing schedule, but also I'm not really focused on programming specifically. So that's not my main focus. So I decided to turn to this new career path called MLOps. And I see that there's a serious need in the market right now that everyone can leverage, can take advantage of with this new emerging role. It's a combination of skills of understanding ML and its development operations journey to production that is there's a serious need in the market that I can't overstate or understate enough, So in terms of next steps for myself, I plan to meld my application security experience with my newly gained ML ops skills. And so currently I'm trying to move over to be in a new position to be product manager with the data science team at my current role at my current job. But I'm also looking externally for other opportunities in this new emerging field. So I highly encourage everyone to apply. It was a great experience, and you can really take advantage of all the resources and feel very supported, and try to go out and capitalize on this new emerging market role. So I encourage everyone to apply.
Great. Thanks so much, Sarah. We'll certainly circle back to you in a little bit to answer some questions. Alejandro, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. By the way, Sarah was such a great colleague. Like whenever we had questions about security and all that stuff, like she was always there to help us. So yeah, by the way, one of the main reasons why you want to join this program is there's so many smart people that joined as part of your cohort, and just learn a lot. But yeah, my name is Alejandro Robles. I'm a FourthBrain alumni as well. I just graduated from the MLOps and System program. Today I just want to share a little bit about my experience in the program. So a little bit about myself. I don't know how back I should go back, but so I studied, my background is in math and statistics for my undergrad and graduate schooling. And then actually straight out of college, I was actually a high school teacher, and I was teaching calculus and statistics. And then I moved into ad tech, into a company called the Trade Desk. We could talk about Trade Desk or like ad tech in general offline as well. So I moved between different departments, support, product, and now engineering. Now my role is solutions architect. And really what I do is I just help our more sophisticated clients with building custom solutions. So if they want to bring, for example, their own algorithms for optimizing marketing campaigns, or if they want to aggregate evergreen data for custom dashboards, that's kind of when my team comes in and helps out. We basically touch anything that has like an ML component to it on a custom solution. And so, one of the reasons why I wanted to learn MLOps is like, there's a few reasons. My team is growing. That means that, more team members, more models. Once you start having a lot of models to maintain and deploy, that's where MLOps is, really going to be a good framework for you to leverage. We also host, we host internally and externally. So sometimes clients want to host their own machine learning model. So, we need to be nimble and understand, if they want to deploy a model in GCP versus AWS versus Azure, like how do you do that? How do you be the consultant for that? So, FourthBrain really helped in terms of like not only touching one specific cloud provider, but GCP and AWS. I think in terms of like the specifics of the program and the structure, I really liked how they curated their resources in terms of like YouTube videos, tutorials, Jupyter notebooks, everything related to MLOps, which is really well curated. The assignments were really great in that they exposed me to a lot of concepts, technologies in AWS, GCP, everything from Kubernetes, Kubeflow, TensorFlow, SageMaker, all really good things. But just get your feet wet. I'm not going to say that you're going to learn everything you need to learn from all these technologies in this program. I think it just gives you it really gets your feet wet, and it gets you comfortable with these concepts and technologies. And then afterwards, you could do a little more research by yourself. Like Greg mentioned, I think the capstone project is super important. This is the end result from my team was a plug and play pipeline that we did for AWS and AWS. And I was able to just take that back to my team and kind of like showcase it and perhaps even use it for like a project. So yeah, definitely capstone project is super important. And yeah, I just want to end with the people, right? Like the cohort is awesome. I learned so much from a lot of people. It's very diverse. You know, you have different backgrounds with different levels of expertise. Like Sarah was really great on security and hacking sense of things, but you know, you just meet a lot of different people, and you'd be surprised with like all the things that you can learn. And yeah, I think also we just helped each other a lot too. Like some of the assignments were difficult. You get stuck on like in the weeds things, like how do you spin up a virtual machine and all that good stuff. But I think we were very supportive and very helpful to each other, which is something that I really liked. And then, yeah, just lastly, I want to call out to Greg, our instructor. He just gives us so much energy. You know, like MLOps is like very infrastructure-y and could get a little dull, but like Greg just made it really fun and energetic. So, you know, shout out to Greg. And yeah, he was also good at like generating engaging discussions between all of our colleagues. So I think that was great too. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Great. Thank you so much, Alejandro, for that. So we're going to move into Q&A. So I've been, tracking some of the questions coming through on the chat. So I'm going to, I'm sort of consolidating some questions and kind of identifying the themes. And so I'm going to feed them out to everybody right now. So this question, I'm going to start with Greg. If you can start with it, and then Alejandro and Sarah, if you want to jump in, by all means. So there's a lot of related questions, essentially saying, who is this program for? You know, what are the backgrounds? What are the types of jobs that you might have before coming into this program? So Greg, if you want to start with that, and then Sarah and Alejandro, if you want to add anything to that about you or your classmates, go ahead. So Greg.
Yeah, great question. I would say who this program is for is it's for someone who has some level of expertise, some level of depth, some level of having spent some time with machine learning already. And so you spent some time with Python, you spent some time with machine learning. And that's pretty key because we're going to dive in right out of the gate to stuff where you're going to have to be able to create models from data on your own. That's not what we're going to focus on in this course. We've got another course that if you still have a lot of work to do on data and models, that we'd encourage you to check out. That's our machine learning engineering course. But this course sort of assumes that you've got some baseline of ML. So it doesn't need to be an expertise, but it does need to be a baseline in machine learning and deep learning. Beyond that, if you've never opened up a terminal, if you've never opened up the command line and done any sort of coding there, then you're going to have a little bit of work to do before we actually get started day one. You don't have to have worked as a software engineer. If you have worked as a software engineer, then you can still get a ton out of this course because we're really not focused on classical software engineering in the course. But what happens by the end is if you have not been a software engineer, it sort of opens up all of these interesting threads and rabbit trails for you to go down after you leave, sort of self-teaching the computer science piece. So we're really, really focused on people that have some Python, they have some ML, they're relatively okay, comfortable with the command line. If you sort of have zero confidence in your ability to code in general, I would not recommend this course. But if you have some confidence, you've developed some Python code, you're familiar with Python libraries, you're ready to sort of take to the next level, that's where this comes in. So I guess I'd like to hear also from, let's start with you, Alejandro. What do you think? Who should join this course?
Well, just from my colleagues, like I feel like there was like varying levels of like seniority or like programming skills. I think, yeah, I think what you said is correct. Like just at least some level of like programming skills is very helpful. And like moving around the terminal, I found is very useful too. But I think it's at least if you have some baseline, that's fine. Because I think, yeah, one of the great things of being a cohort is that you know there's going to be help, right? So if you don't have if you feel like you don't have the right skill set, like I would say I would encourage you to still apply because once you're in, like you could always ask for help, you know, like I think everybody was super helpful and friendly. And if you know you're not at the level that you want, like we'll help you, you know, your team will help you, your cohort will help you.
So I don't have, I mean, I have limited experience with Python. It's not my main focus. Programming is not my main focus with my current position, but I've played around on my own. I've just been very passionate about learning about machine learning. And I've played around with models on my own in my own spare time. And, but what I would say is that I had more of the DevOps side experience. So what I was missing and what I gained from this class was skills around the specialization around ML and bringing that into production. I feel like that's a very unique skill set, and it's going to be very valuable in the future. And so that's why I decided to take the class. But so in the beginning of the course, the programming was quite intense, and I had to spend a lot of time doing the work, heavy lifting, you know, bringing back some of my serious programming skills. But after that, when we got into more on the production side, it was kind of easy coasting for me in terms of APIs and containerization, Kubernetes, that sort of thing. But what I didn't have experience with was the different platforms. So I only had Azure experience. And so it was really wonderful for me to see the Google Cloud Platform, GCP, you know, that sort of thing, AWS, and get exposed to those platforms, those tools. So, you know, I feel like you should have a baseline of some programming, some you know, command line experience to get around a computer or a terminal, and then some baseline in understanding how machine models, you know, learning ML models work. That's really helpful, the exposure into the different types of ML. But I feel like you can, like Alejandro said, if you have any questions, we formed study groups. We were very supportive of the other, you know, cohort classmates and things like that. And Greg was awesome. We could always reach out to our instructor, Greg, and he was always willing to spend extra time with us and try and walk us through some aspect that we didn't quite understand. So I feel like baseline, yeah, you need to have some Python, you need to have some understanding of how ML works and models, the differentiation. But I feel like there's so much that that it's impossible to know everything, and that's why you take the class.
Great, thank you for that insight from all three of you. That was really helpful. My next question, which is going to be aimed primarily at Greg and James, but again, Alejandro and Sarah, please feel free to jump in. What's the plan after this program? What types of jobs are people going into? What types of things will they be able to do after this program in their career? And Greg, you can start, and then James, if you want to add, you know, job outcomes afterwards, you can just go with that.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I think it really, you know, James's kind of point of what are you aiming at when you get in the door, and really us kind of working with you on that is going to be essential to what you get out of it. And what we're seeing though is, you know, out in the industry is that depending on the size of the company, depending if it's a startup, it's a Series A, Series B, Series C, or depending if it's, you know, a large company that's getting ready to go public this year, or even within the cohort that we just had, you've got all sorts of different teams made up of different position titles that are actually doing this sort of MLOps work. So, you know, our grads are going to be able to get jobs from data scientist to machine learning engineer to the newest title is now MLOps engineer. Some people that are more on the software side or on the DevOps side could get those sorts of roles. But it's really more, and even as Sarah mentioned, product roles are not outside of the realm of possibility for grads as well. It really depends on your interest and where you see yourself fit in more of a classical digital product startup environment today. Because if you can say, okay, this is approximately where, I kind of see myself as a developer, or I kind of see myself more as a data scientist, or I kind of see myself more as a product manager. With that sort of context, you can then come in and or I see myself more as a startup founder. With that sort of context, you can sort of come in and you can say, okay, let's layer this MLOps on top of this, and let's see which direction it pulls me in. Maybe I'm a data scientist that wants to move towards operations and software development and actually doing stuff in production. Or maybe I'm a data scientist that sees this MLOps stuff and I'm like, I'm really trying to go back to R&D. That's where I really should be going. So you might use this course as a way to figure out what you don't want as much as what you do want. And so, that's kind of my perspective. Is the answer is it depends, and it depends on what you're aiming at. So, James, I don't know if you have some other thoughts or stats on what people are doing exactly.
Yeah, Greg, I like what you said. What I'll add is a little bit just from my perspective, since I'm talking to employers all the time about this. Yes, there is this sort of relatively new discipline that people have placed a tag on, which is MLOps. The other part of this is I think that's also important to keep in mind is I sort of view this program and MLOps as sort of almost like a mobility tool, that it sort of really opens up a lot of doors for you. And what I noticed is, maybe like a few years ago, I started seeing some shifting in the way that employers were interviewing for data science and ML roles. And initially at the time, I thought it was, really sort of the bar was being raised. And I guess essentially it was, but I think behind the scenes, it took me a little longer to figure out, which was that their needs were changing. And the needs that were changing were essentially like, hey, yeah, we want to have people that can build good and develop good models. But what I was seeing is that there are more and more employers that needed people to go above and beyond just building models. So okay, so you built this really cool thing. There's a little bit more that's involved with just okay, I built this model, it goes into production. There's a whole, sort of timeline of other things that happens behind the scenes that maybe isn't always talked about. And so that's essentially what I was witnessing. And so I think that this course fills in a lot of gaps for a lot of people, where it now sort of qualifies them for these roles where, frankly, a lot of employers are sort of converging multiple skills. So they'll be hiring for an ML engineer, but frankly, there's a lot of ML ops stuff involved in that as well. So that would be my addition to that comment.
Great, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Alejandro.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that I have a theory that learning MLOps will make you a better data scientist, or just a better, and I'm not too into product, but maybe better product manager, a better anything that touches data, right? Because you start thinking about concepts that you maybe haven't thought about before, what's data drift? What happens if your model is deteriorating? What do you do? How do you monitor that? So I think it, whatever you end up wanting to do, and like Greg said, it might, you might learn that you don't want to go into MLOps, but I think regardless of that, I think it just opens your minds to different frameworks, different concepts that I think will help you along your data career.
Great. All right, so I'm going to go to the next question, which has come up a few times, which is, how does this program compare to our MLE program? So I can answer an initial answer, and then Greg, if you want to add to that, by all means. So we've talked a lot about what this program is for. So this program is for people who already have ML modeling experience and data experience. Our MLE program is for people who have a little bit of familiarity with software and with data, but want to learn the modeling piece. So that's a 16-week program. It starts from classical supervised learning and machine learning, goes into deep learning, and then we do a little bit of deployment and MLOps in the second half of the program. So if you're a data scientist who wants to learn more modeling, if you're a software engineer who wants to move into machine learning engineering, our MLE, our machine learning engineer program, might be right for you. You can go to our website, check out the program. We hold these types of info sessions for that program as well. So you can also, look back in the history of our YouTube channel and check out some of the info sessions for the MLE program as well. Greg, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say that the MLE program is more for, if maybe, maybe you've been an analyst, or maybe you're coming out of grad school, or maybe you're trying to get into this data science space. Maybe you're a software engineer and you're trying to figure out, what this machine learning thing is all about. That's sort of it's kind of a, it's a relatively long program, and you get a lot out of it. There's a lot of different topics covered, and you go into a lot of the details behind some of the stuff that we want you to have at least relatively figured out coming into an MLOps program. So, the journey is long, and it keeps getting longer to learn machine learning in 2022 and in the 21st century. And so the MLE program can be thought of as sort of the jump off point. If you got some data, some statistics, you've got some programming, and you're ready to actually dig into machine learning. And maybe the MOOCs aren't really working for you, that you need some more accountability, and you really want a deeper dive with more expertise that's more curated for you. That program is a great fit. And like Molly said, at the end of it, you start to get into some of these MLOps concepts. And so what happens is MLOps picks up exactly where MLE left off. And that's the way to think about it in a nutshell.
Yeah, if you are sort of interested in both, not sure which to pick, we would recommend starting with the MLE program and moving to MLOps afterwards, if you wanted to take both. Before we move on to some more questions, I just wanted to drill down a little bit more specifically on, what happens after the program, specifically, for the people who are looking for jobs, what types of jobs are they getting, how successful are they? So I'll pass that off to James to answer.
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, so typically in programs like this, kind of like a typical sort of snapshot that we take, and potentially if you've talked to other places, it's sort of like a snapshot of that particular cohort at 6 months, right? And so we've had a few cohorts that have passed that 6 month mark. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll also talk sort of broadly about the broader narrative about what our students are doing. So from the MLOps side, we've had one cohort, our first cohort. They're at 100%. All of them have jobs now. On the MLE side, we've had two cohorts pass. The first cohort at the 6 month mark was 88%, and the second cohort at the 6 month mark was at 86%. So that sort of hopefully very succinctly answers the specific question about where do our graduates, or what's the snapshot look like with our graduates at 6 months. Broadly, which is also sort of worth saying, is that we have, because of the program, the way it's set up, and that people oftentimes will take their the skill set that they've learned in the program and start to apply it in their new job and practice it a little bit. And then they start looking for a new job once they've sort of practiced it, so that they can, leverage that in their next job search. Sort of point being is that we do have a fair number of students that sort of take a longer, broader look at their sort of future career. And so going forward, we're also going to be looking not only at the 6 month mark, but also at the 12 month mark, because we do have such a variety and diversity in where our students come from and what their outcomes are. So hopefully that answers questions.
Great. Thanks, James. Really appreciate that. There's a couple other questions that I want to address, specifically a couple about like an MS program, like how does this compare to a master's program? So I'll start, and then if anybody else wants to add to that, please by all means jump in. So for this MLOps program, there's really no programs out there that are teaching these skills specifically. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this compares to a master's program in any way. We're really focused on practical hands-on implementation. So we're not talking really about the theory. This applies to our MLE program as well. So we're really focused on hands-on practical applications week by week. How can you actually apply this in a job? So if you're talking about, should I take this or should I take a master's program? My question to you would be like, well, what do you want to do? If you're looking for really in-depth understanding of, the math behind it, data science, how to build models, then yes, maybe a master's program is right for you. If you're really looking to just get really hands-on into a lot of these tools and practices, this is probably an appropriate program for you. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So the way to look at this, in my opinion, is that if you're really into doing R&D, and you really want to maybe work as a research engineer, research scientist, you maybe want to get your PhD, master's program is a great opportunity, great option for you. But if you're really interested in making an impact out in industry, and that's your number one goal, and you're really interested in coming up to speed on the latest and greatest, because what's happened, then this program is going to be a lot more efficient in use of your money and your time. And the thing I'd like to point out is that what we've seen is as the industry progresses, as machine learning and AI progress, there's less and less need for the underlying math to actually be useful out in the industry. There's less and less need to be able to do things the difficult way, to be able to really like jump in and make an impact. For example, when I was in grad school, I was learning 13, 14. That was a good time to be learning that, because today you don't have to really understand a lot of underlying model training algorithms in order to be able to go run AutoML, get a baseline, and do data-centric AI, for example. And you can make a huge impact and make a ton of value for companies by just learning a couple of those core skills. So it's all about operating at the right level of abstraction for what you're aiming at. So I think there's value in both master's, PhD, as well as programs like this, but it's really, really important to, align them with your aim.
Great, thanks for that additional context. So we only have a few minutes left. So what I want to do is I want to tell everybody how can you join? What's the application process? So as we mentioned, this program is for students with familiarity with ML. Prior Python and command line programming is pretty important. Most importantly, a willingness to engage, commit to the coursework, and put yourself out there. This is an intense program. When we say, you're going to be spending 15 to 20 hours a week, we're being truthful. It does take quite a lot of hours. It is designed for people with full-time commitments, so you certainly can do it, but it does take time. So be ready to commit. The application process is not extensive. There is an online application. We've put the link into the chat a few times, so it should all be there. There's a brief coding quiz just to kind of make sure that you are in fact familiar with some of these basic concepts. And then you get a chance to enroll. After you're accepted, you always have a chance to book time with me if you want to ask more questions about your situation specifically. So definitely fill out that application. Class starts March 26th, and we recommend you apply by March 12th. That gives you enough time to kind of get through the process, review all the details, and make your decision with plenty of time for you to get enrolled and ready to go for March 26th. So we have we've also had a couple questions about when our next cohort is after March 26th. The answer is it is still TBD, but as soon as we confirm it, we will be putting it up on our website, and we will certainly have at least one, most likely two more in 2022. So at least two more opportunities to enroll after this one. So before we wrap up, I would like to just bounce it back to Sarah and Alejandro. If there's one thing that you want potential students to know about this program, what would you tell them?
Start on your capstone as soon as possible. Absolutely. If you are in the beginning stages of your career or you're trying to transition into ML focus, this could be a great opportunity for you to start your portfolio. And this could be, this project could actually turn into potentially a startup for a new business. It could turn into lots of different things. It is what you make of it. And so I highly encourage everyone to apply to this course, and start working on your capstone. Come to class with ideas and start working on that capstone as soon as possible.
Yeah, I would just say don't be shy. Network, talk to people. There's a lot of smart people out there. If you have any more questions, please, you could reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, don't be shy. Talk to people, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll be guided on whatever you want to do next.
Great. Well, it was so nice having you all here. James or Greg, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Go ahead, Greg.
I just wanted to, echo Alejandro's sentiment earlier that I really am hoping that what you leave with from this program is fantastic relationships with people aiming in the same direction, that you can have stuff in common with in this new emerging field as you progress and continue on into your career. So that's really, really the bottom line for me, is how can we set you up to, it's like the master's thing. How can you meet some people like you did back in school at FourthBrain that travel along similar journeys? So I'm really focused on that, and I really hope to create some of that magic in this online setting, which is so hard to do today. But I'm very focused on that, and I hope we can make that happen like it seems to have happened for some of the folks in the last cohort.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for attending. We really appreciate you joining us today. If there were any questions that we did get to, or any questions that come up later, please reach out to us, info@fourthbrain.ai. That email address is in the chat, so you can grab it there along with the application form. I hope to see some applications. I did see some familiar names in this chat, so great to see you. Looking forward to our next cohort starting on March 26th. And thank you all so much for attending. Great to see you.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, the